Hello, everybody. Billy Ferguson here, and my presentation is about blogs and podcasts. And there's several different things that you can use for blogs and podcasts in a classroom, and I'm going to talk about some of those and talk about the advantages and disadvantages of each, and talk about how they can pertain to education as well. First of all, we're going to talk about blogs. What is a blog? What is a blog? Well, a blog is to communicate information with other parties, typically reflections, thoughts, feelings, etc. It's a website that displays ongoing information. It's a diary-like conversation. You can put in things, chronologically, and it's typically informal. Blog is actually short for weblog. It allows audience comments. What are some strengths of using a blog? It allows writing practice. Kids can actually use it for writing practice. It's easy to set up. It's easy to update and comment. It can be used for anything you're talking about in your class. And it chronologically dates entries. It keeps track, of how you're doing in class. Weaknesses: posts may sometimes be biased. There's a lack of privacy. Time consuming if regularly updated. May not be able to keep up. And also, users may leave inappropriate comments, which is not always a good thing. Who develops it? Typically one main developer, but they can invite others to collaborate or contribute to the blog depending on the blog medium. Who can change it? The website author, the invited contributor, and readers may leave comments but can't change the post or others' comments. These are if blogs are done in class, used and made by the class. Advantages in education of a blog: they can be used for online meetings, communication with parents, resources website, useful to collect and share data, and fosters technology skills in students. You can access from anywhere with internet, phone, computer, whatever. Disadvantages in education: it takes time to update. If you not keep track of it, then it can kind of get stale. If students have direct access, teacher control is limited until after the fact. So they might post something and you might not be able to get to it quick enough. Public, so confidentiality, privacy can become a concern. Possible uses in the school: literacy activities and publishing work, homework hotline for parents and students, keeping parents updated on classroom events or activities. You can use it as a classroom magazine or book. Professional development sharing: if you find some blogs that you like, you can share it. Sharing resources between teachers if you have someone. Some examples of some blogs that I like: hookedoninnovation.com is made by Carl Hooker, who is Eanes ISD technology guru. He's the director of innovation and digital learning in Eanes Independent School District, and he's also the founder of iPad Palooza. And he has a lot of great tips and tricks for teachers and technology. Next is the Moss-Free Stone. That's by a guy named Randy Rogers. He actually used to work in our neck of the woods at Burville ISD, and he's now the technology director down in Seguin ISD. And he's been blogging for about 15 years, and he has a lot of good stuff. Next, we're going to talk about podcasts. Talk about the same stuff as far as advantages and things like that. We're going to talk about what is a podcast. Podcasts are used to gain new information from the internet quickly and efficiently. Podcasts are presented through audio, video, and PDF. They're an audio and visual way to learn and gain knowledge. Audio is the main component to podcasts because it can be downloaded and streamlined onto the tech device of your choice, and it can be played at your convenience. We're talking about podcasts either made by students or just out there that people have already done. The strengths: you can listen to a podcast immediately if you need to. You can download a podcast and listen later at your own convenience. Visual and hearing: it helps those visual learners and those that are auditory, and it's usually under 30 minutes and easy to create. Some of the weaknesses of using podcasts: anyone can view the podcast, so there's no privacy sometimes, especially if you're making it for your class. So you got to be careful who can see it. And with our Canvas use, that's a good thing. You could always use our Canvas to limit that. Podcasts can also be biased. For example, if an educator is posting a podcast on his or her vacation and the history of the area through their own knowledge and possibly not checking it for full truth. So sometimes it's, you just throw it out there and it might not be true. So you got to be careful with that. Who develops it? It's created by one main person, but they can also invite others who can change it. Podcasts can only be changed by the creator or contributors. Comments are allowed on podcasts. Advantages in education. Go a little fast here. Teacher to teacher ideas, tips, strategies, lessons, and resources. There's a lot of good resources out there that you can listen to. Teacher can turn a trip away from the classroom into a fun educational experience by sharing the location and history of his or her location. It hits multiple learners, and it differentiates instruction. It can be listened to or viewed at an individual's own pace. Disadvantages in education. Not all students may be auditory learners. And let's face it, there are a few podcasts out there that may put one to sleep. Possible uses in education. Between educators, say you find something you like and you could tell your colleague about it, something that you listen to. Between teachers and students, say you're studying something in history and you find something about a historical fact and they do a podcast about it. Between students, if students start liking some podcasts, they might start sharing with each other. Professionals of all fields. Parents can view the podcast that their children are viewing for the school, and they can discuss the information with them. Example podcasts. Got a couple on here that I want to talk about. Dan Carlin's Hardcore History. It's a newer podcast that I kind of been starting to listen to. And here's a little clip of that podcast.
Nonetheless, without further ado and with proper warnings in place, this is Kings of Kings, Part 2. When the near-legendary and enormous historical figure of Cyrus the Great that we talked about in the first part of this story, when he dies or is killed in 530 or 529 BCE, he bequeaths to his son the most dangerous inheritance I can imagine. He leaves him the empire that he had just won. And by doing so, he both creates an immense challenge for his son to overcome, absolute power, or something very close to it, and what that can do to him, but also he hands his son something that is so valuable that immediately other entities are going to be tempted by it. It's like leaving him gold and jewels, which, in effect he really did leave him, and then sending him out at 2 in the morning to walk down the most crime-ridden street in town. You're always going to be looking over your shoulder, and there may be other people very tempted by what you have.
And of course, TED Talks Technology is a good resource, and it has a lot of good information on there. Here's an example of a good TED Talk, and it's about proper use of passwords.
professor here at Carnegie Mellon, and my research focuses on usable privacy and security. And so my friends like to give me examples of their frustrations with computing systems, especially frustrations related to unusable privacy and security. Excuse me. So passwords are something that I hear a lot about. A lot of people are frustrated with passwords. And it's bad enough when you have to have one really good password that you can remember, but nobody else is going to be able to guess. But what do you do when you have accounts on 100 different systems and you're supposed to have a unique password for each of these systems? It's tough. At Carnegie Mellon, they used to make it actually pretty easy for us to remember our passwords. The password requirement after 2009 was just that you had to have a password with at least one character. Pretty easy. But then they changed things. And at the end of 2009, they announced that we were going to have a new policy. And this new policy required passwords that were at least 8.
So there it is. That's my presentation about blogs and podcasts. Hope you enjoyed it. And, I use a lot of these blogs and podcasts all the time. There's a lot of great resources out there. Blogs, like I said, I really enjoy looking at Carl Hooker's blog on different ideas, and also Randy Rogers. And they're also good follows on Twitter. And Mr. Hooker, and I believe Randy Rogers is it's Rodgers on Twitter. Those are also pretty good follows for educators. And and the other thing is podcasts. I really have some podcasts that I like to listen to a lot. So hope you enjoyed it and have a great day.